Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are well and I hope you guys are staying safe. Today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this wrap shorts. It's really nice and I really like the fabric that I use. A bit out of my comfort zone because it's got loads of bright colors, but I know that a lot of you like bright colors, and with summer literally being here, it's the perfect time for, you know, wrap shorts and this kind of thing. However, before that, I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping notes. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Ayotola, the creative director of So Unique by Adunni and the content creator of this channel, DIY with So Unique by Adunni, and this channel was created for you. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, definitely hit the subscribe button. The channel focuses on sewing crafts, DIY crafts, but majorly, you know, sewing stuff. And of course, once in a while, I'll take you guys on my journey as a human being living in London. All right then, and to all my OGs, welcome back. You guys know how much I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this family. Thank you for sharing, for liking, for commenting, and for, you know, just supporting me generally. I do not take it for granted. So if you're here and you haven't subscribed, again, like I said, it's absolutely free. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on the awesome content that I have for you. My analytics show me that a lot of you haven't subscribed, so it really will help me if you guys subscribe. And another thing that's going to help me is if you guys actually share my videos with people who are interested in sewing, you know, get them to subscribe. And if you guys leave your nice comments that just encourage me, obviously feedback is absolutely welcome as well, and it's constructed positively, right? So make sure to leave all your comments. However, without further ado, I'm going to be showing you guys the wrap shorts that I made. So as usual, all my sewing projects are made with my Janome sewing machines. I honestly cannot recommend the Janome HD9 Professional sewing machine well enough. It's an absolute beast of a machine. Like, it just makes my life easier, right? And of course, I also use a Janome Air Thread to whip. And I don't know if you guys can see. Let's see all the whipping. Can you guys see how fine the whipping details of this is? Like, really nice, right? And obviously I use my Janome Air Thread. You can adjust it, you know, depending on how you do it. But again, this is the wrap shorts that we're going to be making today. I'm going to be showing you guys how to wear it because it is a bit complicated. So I'm going to start my camera and I'll be back. Hi guys, so you can tie your wrap shorts in two ways. Usually the back piece will have a label. I always add a label for easy identification. So you can go ahead and start with the back, or you can go ahead and tie it with the front. Now I'm going to show you both ways. Let's start with the front. So you want to go ahead and locate the front piece, tie it around your waist as shown. It's high waist, and then you want to go ahead and pass the back piece underneath your crotch, make sure it's not tangled, and then you also want to tie, you know, the back piece in place. And this is what it looks like when you tie it. Now, I don't personally like when I do the front first. I prefer to do the back first, but this is what it looks like. And you can see the belt is dangling in front. You can put it to the side if you've got it long enough. But like I said, my preference is to have the back tied first, and that way I have no rope dangling in front, so that works better for me. And I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. So method number 2, you want to locate the back and then go ahead and start with the back and tie it in place. You want to make sure that it's, like, you know, nicely tied, and you know, that's what it looks like. Now you want to spread your leg and then pass the crotch in between, and then you want to make sure it's not tangled as well, and then you want to go ahead and tie the front. I personally prefer this look when it's tied to the front. I think it looks a lot cleaner, and this is my personal preference. You've seen how I wear the wrap shorts. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. So go ahead and watch the video. It's a full tutorial. It shows you how to make it from the pattern up to the sewing part of it, and I do hope that you enjoy it and you do make it. And if you do make it, remember to tag me at sounique_ng. Thank you. Bye. Start off by placing your pattern paper on your working surface, and then go ahead and draw the top and side lines. For the top and side lines, I recommend using a measurement of 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters and nothing more. So go ahead and draw the lines, and the next thing you want to do is you want to find the midpoint or the middle line of the paper. Now for this, my personal recommendation is that you make sure the left side is a lot wider than the right side. So go ahead and draw the midline, making sure to add about 4 or 5 inches to the left side. Now after doing that, on the midline you want to go ahead and mark your crotch depth, and for the crotch depth you want to make sure to add an ease of 1/4 of an inch. Next, you also want to measure the short length or your trouser length, and for that I marked 16.5 inches. Now after marking the points, you want to go ahead and label. So the starting point is point A, point B is where the crotch depth is, and point C is where your trouser length is. Find the measurement A to B and find 1/3 of the measurement A to B. Go ahead and mark 1/3 of of the measurement A to B, starting from B, and then label that part as D. Now I know it's a bit confusing, but go ahead and rewatch that part. Next thing is you want to square out point D to the left and to the right. You want to also square out point B to the left and to the right, and then you want to square out the trouser length, which is point C, to the left and the right. Now that we have this, you want to go ahead and label your pattern a little bit. So on the left hand side you have the back, and on the right hand side you have the front. Now I know it looks equal, but trust me, the back side is wider than the front side, and you'll find out why in a little bit. Next, you want to calculate your front and back hip measurements. So for the back hip, you have hip measurement divided by 4 plus 0.25 inches or 1/4 of an inch. And for the front hip, you have hip measurement divided by 4 minus 1/4 of an inch. So go ahead and find the hip measurement for your own waist. So example, if your waist measurement is 44, your front hip measurement will be 44 divided by 4, which is 11, minus 0.25, which is 10.75. And that means your back hip will be 11.25. So starting from point D, you want to go ahead and mark your back hip measurement plus 0.25 for ease. So basically in my case, I was marking 11.5 because my back hip is actually 10.25, but don't forget to add the ease for 0.25. Mark that for on lines A, D, B, and C, and then go ahead and draw a straight line. Now for those of you who are wondering, line D is your hip line, line B is your crotch line, and line C is your short length. So go ahead and do the same thing on the other side for the front. You want to mark your front hip measurement plus 1/4 of an inch for the ease, and then go ahead and draw a straight line from line A up onto line C. So the reason why I asked you to make the left side or the back side wider is because you need to mark your back crotch, and the back crotch measurement is half the back hip measurement. So go ahead and measure that from your new line, and you want to go ahead and mark that in place. Now we're going to repeat the same thing on the front, but however for the front, instead of half the front hip measurement, you need 1/4 of the front hip measurement. So go ahead and measure the front crotch, and it is 1/4 of the front hip measurement. After marking where the front and back crotch is on both sides, you want to go ahead and mark an angle 45 degrees. So you can use your protractor for that. I'm using my pattern master because he has an inbuilt protractor. So after marking the line that I have, at the back, you want to go ahead and mark 2 inches, and then at the front, you want to go ahead and mark 1.5 inches. So go ahead and note the difference. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to find the midpoint of line AB, and then you want to mark that on each side of it. Now, after doing that, the next thing to do is to draw the crotch. So for the back piece, you want to go ahead and draw the crotch starting from the midpoint of line AB, and then you want to touch the angle 45 degrees and then touch the base of the crotch, and then you want to do something similar for the front crotch as well. But please take note that the front crotch is 1.5 inch at the angle 45, so it's slightly shorter. Now the next thing to do is to mark the thigh area and draw the inseam. However, because these are wrap shorts, you don't need to do anything specific. You can go ahead and cross check that it's as wide as your thigh. So you want to measure your upper thigh, and then you want to make sure you have the correct measurement starting from the midpoint. In this case, I have more than enough, so I'm really happy with it. So what I just did was just to bring my crotch lines down, and as you can see at the back, it's already down because it touched the side line. So for the front, I only needed to square down, and that's what I have for the crotch line. So we're literally done with that part, and the next thing to focus on is the waist. Now for the waist at the back, you want to raise it by 1/4 of an inch, and then you want to go ahead and draw a slight line so that it meets point A as shown. And also at the front, you want to lower the front by 1/4 of an inch, and then you want to go ahead and draw another line, and that's because of the presence of the tummy. So basically you want to lower the front part a bit, and then because of the bum, you want to raise the back part a bit. Now that the back part has been raised because of the presence of the bum, the next thing you want to do is you want to go in by 1/4 of an inch. And the reason we do this is just to create a slant so that it just lays well around your buttocks. So basically starting from the edge of the back piece, you want to measure 1/4 of an inch. I'm just checking out stuff here. I'm just checking out the back measurement, but measure 1/4 of an inch and then draw a slant line as shown. Next, you want to go ahead and mark the back waist in place, and that's waist measurement divided by 4 minus 1/4 of an inch. And then you want to go ahead and add 1.5 to 2 inches for your dart, depending on your preference. Also, you want to find the same thing for your front waist. So for your front, you want to go ahead and mark the waist measurement divided by 4 plus a quarter of an inch, plus a quarter of an inch in this case. And then you want to go ahead and add your dart. So whatever you want your dart to be, whether you want it to be 1.5 inches wide in total or 1 inch in total, you want to go ahead and mark that measurement. So in terms of what I recommend for my dart, I tend to use a dart of about 2 inches at the back. So 2 inches in total, that's 1 inch to the left and 1 inch in the right, and then 1.5 inches on the front side. After marking your points, your back waist with your dart, go ahead and draw the hip line with a hip curve, or you could also use, like a pattern master like what I'm doing. So if you're wondering why is the front hip so tiny, it's because I initially used a dart of about 2 inches and I went ahead to reduce it so that the dart is only about 1 inch for the front. So I used the dart of 1 inch for the front and then 2 inches for the back. And then as you can see, I went ahead to draw the hip curve. Now the next thing to do is to find the midpoint here, and the midpoint of what I have here, the easiest way to do it is to mark the point on your measuring tape and then fold your measuring tape into 2, which is what I do, and then you have the midpoint. Or you could use a calculator, right? After finding the midpoint, go ahead and put the dart as it should be. So 1/2 inch to the left and 1/2 inch to the right for this one. Now draw the dart leg so that it is 4 inches, and then go ahead and draw your dart in place. You also want to repeat the same thing on the back. You want to find the midpoint of the waist, of the back waist, and go ahead and mark out your dart of 1 inch to the left and 1 inch to the right. Draw your dart leg so that it's 5.5 inches, and then go ahead and draw your darts in place. And this is what it looks like at this point, guys. The pattern is all ready. So go ahead and cut out your pattern as shown, and this pattern can be used for like other shorts as well. However, because of this video, the primary purpose is for the wrap shorts. Alright guys, so after cutting your pattern paper, it's time to get to sewing. And for this sewing, don't judge me, I was being absolutely miserly with the fabric, so I didn't have a lot of fabric left and I really didn't want to like take another batch of fabric. So I was being absolutely miserly, because one thing that you guys should know is not to change your fabric grain line. So if you start on the weft, you want to go ahead and keep it on the weft, or if you start on the warp, you want to go ahead and keep it on the warp. So for this, I started with the fabric being on the warp, I believe, and then I went ahead to change the orientation. Don't do that. Don't, make sure you're not miserly. I'll say you need about 2 yards of fabric at least. So at this point, all I'm doing is straightening the edge of my fabric and I'm placing the back piece on it. And you want to make sure you have about 5 inches allowance on one side, and the reason why you need the 5 inches so that you have a little bit to cover yourself up. If you have them exactly equal at the side, you have yourself exposed, so just so you have a little bit of a flap sort of, so that you can cover yourself up. So pin the back piece onto the fabric as shown, and then go ahead and mark out your allowances. So on the side you need an allowance of 5 inches each, and as you can see, I'm measuring that according to the shape of the pattern. And then at the base or the hem, you want an allowance of 2.5 inches so that you can hem accordingly. And then all over the side and the crotch and the inseam, you want to mark 1/2 inch. And at the waist, you don't need an allowance at the waist. And I'll explain to you why you don't need one in a little bit. So after marking out the allowances, go ahead and cut out the pieces as shown. A very important fact is that you folded your fabric into 2, so you should be cutting out 2 pieces of the back and then 2 pieces of the front as well. So 2 pieces of the back and 2 pieces of the front, just so you know. Now, after cutting out the back piece, you want to go ahead and cut out the front piece as well. So again, you want to make sure your fabric is folded into 2, and then you want to place the piece on it. Guys, this was the point where I was battling with it and trying to figure out how to make the best use of the fabric. You don't even want to know, without changing the orientation. But eventually what I did was I decided to join a fabric, which is a bit of an extra process, because you wouldn't have to do it, you will have more fabric. However, in case you need to join fabric, let's say you want to like do a color block, because I made made this once and I kind of did a color block and it was intentional, then this is probably helpful. So go ahead and pin the fabric onto the pin the paper onto the fabric, and as you can see, one thing you instantaneously notice is that on the side I only have 1/2 inch allowance, but don't worry because we're going to be joining to another piece of fabric. So at the bottom you want to mark 2.5 inches, 1/2 inch at the side of the front only if you're joining. If you're not joining, go ahead and add 3.5 or 4 inches to the side of the front. I would even say 4. But because I am joining, I'm adding only 1/2 inch. So again, if you're not joining, skip this step. When I say skip it, not completely, but go ahead and make it yours, 3.5 inches or 4 inches at the side of the front. But yeah, like I said, I'm joining, so I'm going to go ahead and get where I'm joining to, and I'm going to go ahead and mark this in place. So place this on the fabric that we're joining to, and then use that as an outline to cut out, as a template to cut out the outline. Now after cutting out the outline, pin the 2 pieces of fabric together and then go ahead and measure what you want. So I'm measuring about 3.5 inches, but you can use up to 4 inches like I mentioned earlier. So go ahead and cut this out, and then we're just going to make sure we have the right thing, and then this is what it looks like. So the game, or the aim of this rather, is to join this together, right? So that we can then have like full shorts or full wrap shorts. So when you're done joining it, it's going to look a little bit like this, and it's going to look really wide. So go ahead and join that on your sewing machine by sewing it on 1/2 inch, and so make sure to sew the darts as well. Alright guys, so after joining it, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I went ahead to overlock with my Janome Overlocker machine, and I went ahead to sew the darts in place. So this are the 2 front pieces, all nice and ironed, and this is what they look like. And I've also done the same for the back pieces as well. So for the back piece, I went ahead to sew the darts in place. The next thing to do is to join your crotch together. So not the front to the back, you're joining both front pieces together at the crotch. So go ahead and sew the crotch of the front pieces together, and then you want to repeat that for the back pieces as well. Now after joining the crotch for the front pieces, this is what it looks like, and I've also joined the crotch for the back piece as well. And as you can see, the back piece has the longer crotch, and this is what it looks like. Alright guys, so the next thing we want to do is sort out the hem of both sides, and then the hem at the base as well. So you can start with folding off the hem at the sides and then doing the base, or starting off with the base and then doing the sides. So this is what it looks like after hemming the sides and also hemming the base as well. For the base, I did a fatter hem, so 1/2 inch and then 1 inch roll over, and then I also did that for the front piece as well. Now the next thing to do is to join the crotch together. So you want to go ahead and lay them on the table as I did, and then join the crotch, or alternatively you want to go ahead and fold the front piece like that so that the back part is facing each other, and then you match the crotch to each other and then pin them in place. So this is a much easier way in my opinion, but make sure that whatever you do, you're making sure that you're pinning on the wrong side and the front sides of the front and back pieces are facing each other. Guys, it's a mouthful, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Again, if you need to rewatch the video, make sure to rewatch it a couple of times so that you grasp everything. Now after sewing the crotch in place, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, I went ahead to overlock this as well. Overlocking just gives a professional finish, so I make sure to do this every step of the way. And this is what the shorts look like. Now the shorts are almost done, and the next thing to do is to add the waist or the band to it. Now for the band, you want to go ahead and measure what you have, and you want to make sure that you have at least ×3 of whatever you have there. Right, so for the back waist, whatever you have there from end to end, you want to make sure that the rope is 3 times that. So this is another point where my being miserly, or in my opinion being sustainable, catches up with me, because then I had to join like my fabric pieces. But depending on what height you want your band to be, I recommend making sure that your band is only about not more than 5 inches when you're cutting it, so that when you fold it over, it's only about 1.5 inches. So go ahead and cut out your band pieces. As you can see, I've cut out my band pieces, and I cut out so that they are 4 inches wide, and then I cut out 3 pieces in total. So after cutting out the pieces that you need for your band, again, if you're working with a lot of fabric, you should probably have just 2 strips, one for the front and one for the back. In my case, I have a little bit more because I'm going to be joining. Again, you don't have to join if you already have enough in length. So after cutting out the strips that you need, go ahead and join if you're like me, and then you have to join. Otherwise, you want to go ahead and just, skip this step. After joining the band, here's what it looks like. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it's straightened out. It should be 4 inches wide, and then you want to go ahead and notch the midpoint of the strip, right? So do this for the front and back strip, and again, you can make the strip the same length or you can make the back strip longer. Now you want to go ahead and align the strip so that the midpoint or the notch part matches with the notch part of your back short piece. Now, as you can see, you want to make sure the right side of the strip is against the wrong side of the short. So essentially, you're placing the right side of the strips on the wrong side of the short, and then you want to pin it in place starting from the notch or center all the way to the ends. Now, after doing that, you want to go ahead and sew it in place, and then you also want to close the end of the band as shown. So fold the end of the band into 2 and then go ahead and sew it on the wrong side. After sewing the ends and then attaching the band to the back piece, this is what it looks like. Now the next thing to do is to fold it over as shown, and then you want to go ahead and fold it over, and then you want to do that all the way to the edge. After folding the band over, before you go ahead and stitch it in place, you're going to do one thing. Now at the end of the strip, you can go ahead and top stitch the strip, and then you can go ahead and top stitch it all the way. However, for me, I don't find that an effective method. So what I do is you want to go ahead and trim the excess on the inside, and then, like I said, this is me showing you how to top stitch it if you wanted to. So you can just fold it on the inside and then gradually top stitch. However, a more effective method, in my opinion, is you want to go ahead and sew it from the wrong side and then sew it in place. But let's quickly take a look at both methods. If you wanted to top stitch, you just fold that in place, but instead of top stitching, like I said, the effective method is to find the wrong side of it. So make sure it's on the wrong side and then go ahead and sew it on 1/2 inch while it's on the wrong side. So that's what I'm demonstrating again. While it's on the wrong side, make sure you sew that in place. Now after sewing it in place, this is what it looks like. So I took it upon myself to finish one side. So I finished the front, and I wanted to show you how neat it will look. However, for the back, I just went ahead to sew it in place, but as you can see, it's on the wrong side because you can see the thread. The next thing you want to do is you want to use a loop turner or a pen or something. I'm using a Sharpie here, and you want to push that in so that you can have it on the right side. So just push that in and have it on the right side. Make sure all the edges are pointed and they're like brought out, and then you want to repeat it on the other side as well. So again, you want to sew it while it's on the wrong side and it looks a bit tangled, but you want to go ahead and use a loop turner or a Sharpie or a pencil and push that so that you can have it in the right side. After maneuvering and making sure it's on the right side and all pointed edges are out, this is what it should look like. After turning out the loops, the next thing to do is to top stitch it, and you want to make sure you're top stitching on the right side, and this way you're closing the gap and the belt, literally the shorts are all done. So after top stitching, this is what it looks like. The shorts are all done, and one thing you'll notice instantly is that the back is sticking out, and that's because we added 5 inches to the back and less to the front. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Love you guys.